And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with you. PMH Atwater with us had a handwriting analysis in the mid-'60s that led to a very complete career and lifestyle change. She was redirected into public service and innovative project development and analysis, and she began intensive research into paranormal and altered states of consciousness. With a professional background in hypnotic past life regressions, sensitivity work, de-haunting houses, mediumship, she became to specialize in aura massage, astrology, numerology, dream and symbol interpretation, divinatory, and earth energy sensing. Back in 1977, set the stage for severe health traumas resulting in death and near-death phenomena. The following year, in an effort to understand what had happened to her and what was still happening, she began to seek out and interview other near-death survivors. PMH Atwater back on Coast to Coast after about 4 years. PMH, welcome back.
Yeah, it's been 4 years. My goodness, hello.
How have you been?
Well, I'm doing absolutely great.
Well, fantastic. And your new book, Edgewalker, which you signed a very, very nice thing to me. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I thank you. I thank you very much. And by the way, I bring tidings from Sidney Kirkpatrick and Mark Anthony.
All great people.
They're all saying hello, hello.
Super people. Tell us about your, and we'll get into Edgewalker in a moment here, but tell us, PMH, about the near-death experiences you had. How many did you have and what happened?
I had 3. I had 3 in 3 months. I was raped. And it was because of I miscarried, and then complications from the miscarriage, and I physically died 3 times.
Oh, my God.
First one, January 2, 1977. Next one, January 4, and then March 29. Then later that year, I had 3 complete collapses. So I can honestly say that 1977 was not my year, and completely turned my life around. Totally.
And they happened so quickly, one after the other.
Yes, and in my third one, I was a voice spoke. How do you describe that kind of voice? It's like the whole universe spoke to me. It was not a guide or a guardian or any of that kind of stuff. It was not an angel. It was like the whole universe spoke to me. And it said, and I quote, "Test revelation. You are to do the research. 1 book for each death." Book 1 was not named. Book 2 was. That's future memory. By the way, it's not a book. It is a labyrinth. It is a real labyrinth. And then book 3, a manual for developing humans. And by the way, that's good for anybody who wants to learn to speak and think differently and have a lot more fun in your life. And, that's what I was told to do. And then I think it was the next year when I finally left Idaho, I met Elizabeth Kubler-Ross at the O'Hare Airport.
Did you really?
Yeah, she was just sitting there, waiting on her plane. Her plane was late, and I happened to be in the airport. And I saw her, so I went right up to her and introduced myself and said what had happened to me. And she said, "Oh my goodness, we need to talk about that." So we sat on a bench, the two of us talking like school kids, and she was the one. She became my mentor. She was the one who gave me the title, the name, but she called it, near-death experience. But she said I was a survivor. She didn't use the word experiencer. I was a survivor of the near-death experience. And she gave me the kind of guidance, I guess, that I would need to have than to start my own research. And my research, by the way, was on the near-death experience, those people who might have had it. And I sold everything in Idaho, walked out on my life on the very day, by the way, that I was to become a bank manager.
There goes that job.
Yeah, that was a big deal then. And I quit my job, sold my house. My kids chose to go elsewhere, and I crossed the United States. By the way, when I left Denver, I felt like I'd left the United States, and everything east of Denver was in Greece. And I made my way to the Washington, D.C. area, and started my life all over again over there. And I gave a talk at a police station. You remember, I'm a cop's kid. I was raised in a police station, sort of. In those days, you could do that. And so they had kind of like a little room where, anybody could be there and talk about whatever they wanted to talk about. So I talked about my near-death experience, and when it was all over, a woman came up to me with stars in her eyes. She said, "Oh, I wish something like that would happen to me, so I could be like you." And I absolutely froze. And I felt like I'd done something wrong. And from that moment on, for at least 3 decades, I never talked about my experience at all, because my job was to be a researcher, not a personality.
But you became one of the world's largest experiencers. I mean, I remember you on the Larry King show.
That's back a ways, George.
Way back. My
research base now is nearly 5,000 adults and children.
Have you ever met Raymond Moody?
Oh, yeah.
He's a great guy.
I know Raymond.
Good guy.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun.
And he opened up a lot of doors in this field, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And still is.
And so have you.
And still am.
So this book, Edge Walker. Oh, first of all, why do you call it Edge Walker?
Wow. Well, first of all, I was guided to call it that. And then it's very fitting, because I was born like maybe 3/4 of a mile from the edge of Snake River Canyon in southern Idaho.
Uh-huh.
And so my life as a youngster was often on canyon walls. I'd climb them, and in the deserts, and I was all over everywhere. I was very much an outdoor kind of kid, and did that kind of thing, always on edges. And I came to realize my whole life has been like that, George. I've always been on the edge of something.
That is amazing. And did you just turn 86, if I can ask you your age?
Yes, you can. And yes, I did.
Good for
and
you.
Great.
Well, number one, you don't sound 86. You sound way younger than that.
Well, nobody says I even look like that.
No, you don't. You don't at all. And how you're feeling? How's your health now?
Great. Absolutely great. I have to slow down just a little bit, but just a little bit, and that's it.
Well, slowing down a little bit that never hurts anybody. Now, the cover, is that basically where you were from? These mountains that I see, were you in that kind of environment?
Well, that's my publisher, but he wanted to give the idea of canyons, and so that's the cover. The idea of canyons and deserts, and because that's my background.
Well, these near-death experiences that you had in 1977, what made you think you had them?
Well, you don't think about that kind of thing. You just, you're so totally different, completely, totally different, that there's no way I can say that that I'm the same kind of person I was before. You're just, it ends your life in that sense. Most near-death experiencers go through all kinds of changes, which I did as well. I was able to talk about that afterward. About 21% of the people, they don't go through very much changes. But the other 79%, it's almost as if they become another person, because your changes they're metabolic changes, an increase in allergies, an increase in sensitivity, breathing anomalies, lower blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I can go on and on and on. Your mind changes. The way you speak, the way you talk, the way you live, everything changes.
In a big way, too, doesn't it?
And in a big way.
Have you learned how to cope with the possibility of death? Does it scare you anymore?
Nah. Been there, done that.
Just
no.
a walk in the park, right?
Yeah. When I die, I die. That's simple.
Are you a believer in a heaven and hell concept?
Well, I found that in my research that people think many of them visit a more heavenly or a more positive environment afterward, but some people, it's just the opposite. In my research, 1 out of 7 had a more hellish or uncomfortable experience, but the rest of them, quite the opposite. Very positive. Some of them extremely positive and great kind of an experience in the sense that they were able to visit other worlds, saw things through a very different light, and come back quite different. And really, it takes at least 7 to 10 years to integrate these experiences, because even though most people come back in a more positive way, it still takes a while to get used to these changes. You talk different, you think different. Sometimes it's a little scary. I don't care what happened to you. Sometimes it's a little scary because of the way you live now. Many people, what is it? The figures are 50 to 60%. Well, actually, it's higher than that. It's in the 70%. Have a divorce afterward.
After a near-death experience.
After a near-death experience.
What happens to them?
Well,
do they change?
Yeah, they're so different. They're so changed.
They should change for the better, I would guess.
Yes, change for the better, but they no longer fit where they were before.
Maybe they don't tolerate as much as they did before.
Well, let me give you a little example.
Okay.
This one guy, he had a near-death experience, and it's like every woman you see is your wife, your sister, your daughter. Every man you see is your husband or son or uncle. It's like you love everybody. So he was doing this, but his wife thought he was flirting. His wife thought he was behaving, misbehaving. and it caused so much problems in the marriage because the wife was convinced that he was trying to find someone else, and all he was just loving other people, being around other people.
He was happy.
He was happy, and wound up in a divorce.
She couldn't handle
and
it.
It's that kind of thing that you become so different that it's kind of hard to be in the same relationship.
Do you think, PMH, that everybody should go through a near-death experience to learn something?
Well, no, I'm not going to make that kind of a statement.
Okay.
But I am going to say, wouldn't it be wonderful if everybody entertained the fact that there's another way of living and there's another way of thinking that's very positive and very good?
And so good.
Yeah.
You never forget it, do you?
Yeah. Wouldn't it be wonderful?
It is dramatic. Well, the same thing happened with Dr. Eben Alexander, who wrote a little snippet for your book, Edgewalker.
Sure. I know Eben.
Good guy.
He came to me after his own experience.
It changed his life.
For some time. What?
It changed his life.
It changes everybody's life. Totally. Absolutely. You're not the same person you were before. I'm not the same person I was before.
How would you categorize yourself now, then, as opposed to what you were?
Well, I never thought of that. Well...
That's because I ask provocative questions.
I would say that I am happier. I would say that I'm more positive. And I would also say that I'm more happy with myself. And I think that's a big statement to make. When you're happy with yourself, wow, that's a biggie.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Where does the devil fit in?
Well, there's no such thing as a devil to me.
You don't believe in that?
Nah.
How come?
There really isn't any devil in that sense. Rather, it's you being tempted by negative thoughts and negative figures and negative incidents in your life, and being drawn to that. If we're going to look at the devil, then look at what's happening right now in the Middle East.
Horrible.
Yeah, people who turn to a negative blame life rather than trying to get along. Hey, I'll kill you. There's the devil.
That's true. We're with PMH Atwater. Her website is her name, linked up at coasttocoastam.com. We're talking about her latest book that has just come out called Edgewalker. It's about her many lives and deaths of PMH Atwater that we're talking about. Next hour, of course, we'll open up the phone lines and give you an opportunity to chat with her. When we come back after the break, let's talk about spirits and angels and see where she fits into that. We'll be back in a moment on Coast to Coast AM with Edgewalker, PMH Atwater. And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with you, PMH Atwater with us. Her book is called Edgewalker. What do you think of spirit guides, PMH?
Well, I think they're wonderful.
So they exist?
Sure.
What's their mission?
I talk to you.
What's their role?
To help.
In which ways?
In a positive way. Some spirit guides might scare you with the advice, or if they're there and you're seeing them for the first time and they're appearing They might be a little scary, but in my case, that's not true. I've often said that I would love to have a sign over my front door that said, "Welcome, whether you're wearing a body or not."
Interesting.
Yeah. By the way, I have a couple of announcements I'd like to make.
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, we have the new stats. They came out latter part of August. Every day in the United States, 774 people have a near-death experience.
That's huge.
98% of our population now believes there's life after death. Those are the latest stats. I thought you'd appreciate that.
That is huge. Those are great statistics, too.
Wow. Yeah, they really catch you. And you say, wait a minute here. The near-death experience is not an anomaly at all.
When you had your 3 near-death experiences, how long did they last?
Oh, gee, who can judge time?
I know.
I mean, I don't know.
Did it seem
maybe five minutes or so. The second one, maybe 10 minutes. Third one, I really think that took 20 minutes or so. When my son found my body, it wasn't cold, but it was very cool.
Yeah. Must have scared him.
Well, we raised our 3 children to always go within. Never go without, always go within. And so when my son saw my body, first thing he did was go within himself to say, what should I do? And the voice within him said, talk. It doesn't matter what you say, just keep talking. And I heard his voice way, way up where I was, and I heard unconditional love on his voice. Yeah, I knew that was on the other side, but I didn't know that you could be like that on this side in a body. So I came back because of my son's voice. We knew later on that if he had gone to the phone and called the police or anybody, there's no way that they could have got to our house in time.
Oh no, there's no way. There's no way.
It was my son and my son's listening to the voice within.
Now, do you believe in reincarnation when you pass on?
I know that we live many lives in many bodies. I know for sure, without any doubt, that there is no ending of life. There are many levels of life. There are many types of life. I don't think there is any way that you can categorize that, although I know a lot of people try. I know that there's no full way that you can understand the vastness of this universe, this isness that we are. There's no way you can understand all of that, and what that what that compromises. I mean, there's no way you can understand. It's just so big and so vast and so wonderful. Not wonderful in the sense of heaven, but wonderful in the sense of vastness and how incredibly wonderful that vastness is.
Are you very spiritual now?
How do I identify myself? My husband and I go to Unity Church.
How old is he?
He's in his early 70s.
And you're 86?
Yeah.
You're a cougar.
I am.
You're a cougar.
By the way, my husband is an African American.
Okay, well, that's cool.
Yeah, I think that's really fun. And we have a great marriage, just wonderful, wonderful. I met him at a Zen meditation meeting, and I've always loved Zen, and that's where we met. And about 5.5 weeks later, 6 weeks later, we married, and that was in 1980.
Now, did he ever have a near-death experience?
Yes, he did. He had one as a child. In a swimming pool.
Was he drowning?
Yes. And interestingly enough, a woman came up and got him out of the pool. And as soon as she got him out of the pool, she disappeared.
I had a story once. We had open lines on the program, PMH, every once in a while, and this was years ago. People were calling in telling me the incredible stories of angelic intervention, which I want to talk with you about in a second. And one guy said he was swimming in the ocean, and the currents pulled him out a little too far, and he felt himself sinking, drowning. He was going underwater. Nobody was around him. Everybody was on shore screaming, Bill, get back, get back. And he was being pulled out farther and farther and farther. And he said, George, I was going underwater. I was underwater a couple feet. It was over for me. All of a sudden, a hand reaches down, cracks through the water, comes down, reaches for me. I grab it. It pulls me up. I'm breathing again. I'm above the water. People are swimming out to come and get me, and I'm saved by this one guy who got to me. But I look around and there's nobody there. It's the same thing that happened to him.
Yeah.
How do you explain that?
I can't explain it except to say that these kind of beings, you can call them angels if you want to, but these kind of beings are common. They often happen when people are in trouble. They'll come, they'll help out, and then they'll leave. They never explain themselves. They never introduce themselves. They just come in, help you, and leave. And that's common. It's really not unusual. It's common. But, people are surprised, and so they think that's a miracle. And it is a miracle. It's a miracle in the sense that you're in a crisis time, and suddenly someone comes in, takes care of you, and is gone.
Angelic intervention. What do you think of that?
Well,
like what just happened to this guy in the water?
Intervention, certainly. We can call them angels if we want to. I don't know what you call them, really, except beings that come in, help out, and leave.
That is truly remarkable, though, how it happens. And I would guess we'll open up the phone lines next hour with you, PMH. Maybe we can get some angelic intervention stories, too. It's all tied into near-death experiences, isn't it?
Well, no, I don't think so. This kind of what you call angelic experiences, it's tied in to life, who we are. Near-death experiences are those kind of cracks in time, if you want to call it that, that occur, that flip us around. and we have an opportunity then to become a different person.
It's a huge opportunity to become a different person.
Oh, by the way, do you have time for a special announcement?
Are you going to make the announcement? Because I don't know what it is.
Right.
You have a cute laugh.
Well, remember that voice that spoke to me in my third near-death experience? I call it the voice like none other. That voice spoke to me again last year.
And what did it say?
In mid-August, 3:15 in the morning. And it said I had another research job to do. And all I could say was, no! I've had enough of this. But I do have another research job to do, and I accepted it.
What kind of research?
I am now searching for those people who had a near-death experience, has to be a near-death experience, who either during their experience or within 1 year afterward how do I say this? Met an alien.
Oh, really?
Or was somehow involved with an alien, or witnessed an alien. Yeah, and it can't be after that 1 year. It has to be that 1 year, either during their near-death experience or 1 year afterward.
And they get to you through your website? They can email you? Okay.
Go to my website, www.pmhatwater.com, and report it. I want to know about you. And I want to interview you.
Sounds like another book.
Yeah.
Smart.
Can you imagine that, another book?
And you just might get them in calls, tonight, too.
Well, if they do, I still have to have their experience, and it has to be in writing.
When some people have near-death experiences, are some of those experiences unpleasant?
Yes.
What causes that?
Well, first of all, in my research base, 1 out of 7 had an unpleasant or hellish experience. What causes it? Who am I to label that? Except what I found was, invariably, there was a lot of uncomfortable things that happened in their life. They were very, very negative, or somehow, some way, they needed a shake-up in their life that really shook them. And that is what I found consistently with those people who had an unpleasant or hellish experience.
And they were not necessarily bad people, were they?
No, not at all.
But it probably scared the living daylights out of them.
Yes. Indeed it did.
Were your experiences, your 3, were they all pleasant? Not the episodes that got you to that point, but when you were in that state.
They were incredible in the sense that they opened my mind, my being, to the vastness of the universe and who I could be, what I was, what life is. So I wouldn't call it heavenly in that sense. What I would call it is incredible. It just opened me up to the universe. It opened me up to the universe, and the fact that life isn't what we think it is.
Oh, that is so true. Where do people get the book Edgewalker?
You can get it from Amazon.com, or you can get it from me.
Off your website?
The address I just gave you, yeah, on my website.
All right, we're going to take a short break and come back and take phone calls with you. Stories, questions for PMH Atwater about her near-death experiences, maybe about yours.